Friends, I am stoked to be here today. I have watched so many TED videos over the years. I never thought I'd be up here doing a TED Talk, but here I am, so let's do it. We're going to have a lot of fun today. As Andrew said, my name is Jacob Castillo, and I'm honored to serve this community as the city's Chief Sustainability Officer. One of the questions I've been asking myself for over 2 decades is how we create more enduring, vibrant, and sustainable communities. And I'm going to share with you this morning a bit about my journey to do just that and use this community, our community, the city of Fort Collins, as a little bit of an example of how that's being done. So I love this place. I love Fort Collins. But I'm not from here. I grew up in New Mexico. I spent a few interesting, formidable years in Wyoming. But like many people in this room, I came to Fort Collins to attend Colorado State University. And as you heard in the intro, I studied economics, foreign language and literature, and agricultural business. And I was young and ideal. I thought, the convergence of those degrees was going to lead me on a path to do international development work. I wanted to save the world. I mean, I'm a little longer in the tooth these days, but I still want to save the world. Because I was in school for so long, I spent a lot of time in the community, and the more time I spent here, the more I fell in love with it. And I started wondering, who does international development work, but locally? When you're young, coming out of school, you don't really know what the world of work looks like. So I was like, what are these jobs? So the profession that I entered into right out of school is the field of economic development. And that's where we try to create, thriving, robust economy that has good jobs and economic opportunity for all. So it was really fun out of school. I was doing some economics work. I was meeting small business owners and working with industry leaders across the community and the region. And it was really rewarding. And at the same time, I was kind of asking myself, what's next? And I had some other academic and professional interests that I wanted to pursue. And as I was contemplating this question, what's next, CSU is creating a program that's now called Impact MBA. And this is where they teach students to use business theory or business models to make positive social or environmental change in the world. And I was like, yes, that's it. That's what I want to do. So I applied to school. I was admitted into the first cohort of students into this program. We were all willing guinea pigs. It was cool. This is where I got introduced to a concept, or let's call it a framework, that changed my professional trajectory and has changed the way I think about community building. Now, this concept is not terribly hard to understand. It's easier to talk about than to implement or execute, and it's called the triple bottom line. Has anyone heard of this triple bottom line? Raise your hand. A few hands up. So the triple bottom line is a framework that challenges organizations to not just look at economic impacts, like their financial bottom line. So for all of our accounting or finance students, the bottom line is literally on your financial statements, the bottom line, and all it measures is your ending financial position over a certain period. Now, the triple bottom line says that's inadequate. What we need to be looking at is not just our economic impacts, but also looking at social and environmental impacts. So businesses, organizations, local governments need to account for and be accountable for economic, social, and environmental impacts. An easy way to think about this, we call it the 3 Ps of the triple bottom line: people, planet, and prosperity. So kind of fusing these concepts together. How do we create a robust and healthy economy that supports a vibrant social network that connects people, that also has regenerative and sustainability properties built into it? So, like I said, easier said than done. So I'm going through this program. I'm learning business can be a force for good. I'm all about this, and I'm so all about this that I started 2 different companies while I was here doing graduate work. The first was a bicycle manufacturing company, and we didn't make ordinary bikes. We made bamboo frame bikes. I know, you can laugh. No, they were sweet. They were awesome bikes. And we did all of our manufacturing, our fabrication here in Fort Collins. Actually, our facility was just a few blocks from campus. We sourced our bamboo from a sustainable and regenerative farm in Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, that was one of the only economic opportunities for an indigenous population there. It's like, wow, we're leaning into the bicycling ethos, the bicycling community in Fort Collins. It's very Fort Collins-y. We're creating some economic opportunity for indigenous population, and we're supporting sustainable agriculture. It's like, wow, that's triple bottom line. Super fun. Built a bike for Brad Pitt, did a collab with fashion designer Marc Jacobs for Fashion Week. It was fun. It was cool. The other business I started was a company that did clean technology distribution for some of the most poor areas of the planet. And we were headquartered in Fort Collins. We had a subsidiary in Lima, Peru. And the whole idea was, like, we don't need to design new technologies. There's tons of life-changing and life-saving technologies out there. The problem is they're not getting to the people who need it most. So that was the problem we were trying to solve. So we essentially set up a bunch of supply chains and financing mechanisms to get solar lanterns and clean-burning biomass cook stoves to some of the poorest areas of South America. Again, like headquartered out of Lima, Peru. So I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a small business owner. It was really fun to do that work. Had a global footprint. And what was missing for me was not just working in this community, but working on this community. I still have very strong love for Fort Collins. And I was like, how do I make some of that impact here? So again, I'm kind of questioning what's my next step, what's my next move. And as I was pondering that, Larimer County had a position. They're like, we need someone to launch the new economic development program we want to create. And I was like, ooh, that sounds intriguing, launch. So I got to be, I applied, they accepted me, it all worked out. So I got to be an entrepreneur within the public sector. So the term for that is intrapreneur, if anyone's curious, but like be an entrepreneur within local government, create a new economic development program. And what was super cool about this was that we were connecting economic development strategies to human and social services and workforce development programs. So it's like this really impactful way, like to do anti-poverty work and to build like a pipeline up and through our economy, creating a lot of economic inclusion and opportunity, especially for the folks who are on the lowest rungs of the economic ladder. So it was really effective. We serve thousands of people and hundreds of businesses every year. And I did that for 10 years, so it was cool. Like I said, got to be an entrepreneur in the public sector and create a really impactful program. And over those 10 years, it started before that, but over those 10 years, I felt this burning responsibility to do more for the climate crisis. I don't know if any of you guys have felt that, but it's like, yeah, I volunteered, I was on boards, and that's where my philanthropic contributions went to, in large part. But I was like, I've got to make this my daily mission. I got to wake up and do this work. We've got to do this. So as I'm like, what's my next move? How am I going to start addressing climate change in a more intentional way? The city of Fort Collins had an open position for the chief sustainability officer. So threw my hat in the ring. I felt it was my responsibility. They thought I was the best candidate. I wanted to do the work. Bada bing, bada boom. I'm here. So that's what I do now. And what's super cool about how the city of Fort Collins has approached sustainability for over 10 years is that the sustainability umbrella encompasses the triple bottom line. So remember people, planet, prosperity? Like, we have departments in the sustainability service area focused on economic health and social sustainability and environmental services. So it's an interdisciplinary approach to building community. So we go all the way back to the question that I was asking at the beginning of this talk. How do we create enduring, thriving, and sustainable places? I think it's through intentionally using this triple bottom line framework and connecting across disciplines to solve really complex problems. Because the problems that we're facing are really complex. Okay, so for example, City of Fort Collins is about 175,000 people. And we exist in a 2-county region of about half a million people. In the next 25 years, like before 2050, we will be a metro area of 1 million people that encompasses Fort Collins, Loveland, Greeley, and all the surrounding communities. So we will double in size and be a metro area of 1 million people. To put in perspective, Denver Metro is 2.5 million, right? So there is incredible pressures coming from growth to this community. We're already feeling it, right? We see it in our road networks, we see it in our water networks, we see it in pressures on open lands, parks, natural areas. So these challenges require an interdisciplinary approach. I mean, it's also not lost on me that we have businesses saying this is the hardest time they've ever seen to be in business. Supply chain issues, rising costs. Now, wages have gone up for people, but because of inflation, purchasing power is actually down. We have a stubborn poverty rate in this community that hovers in the low double digits. So we know that there are economic challenges. We were recently rated the 3rd most expensive non-coastal housing market in the US. And I haven't even started talking about the climate crisis, right? I mean, the climate crisis that is influencing floods and record-breaking fires and the natural disasters that we're seeing, the perennial break of records, hottest day, week, month, year on record. Like, this takes a different type of problem solving. And I think the way we've organized ourselves at the city of Fort Collins around thinking through people, planet, prosperity, or the triple bottom line, we're on the right path to address these challenges. So let me tell you some of the things that the city is doing. So right now, we have some of the most aggressive climate goals in the country. We will be a zero-waste community. We will have 100% renewable electricity, and we will have reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by the year 2030. Well, we have a plan to do that. And I know, clock's ticking, pressure's on. But it's going to take all of us to reach those goals. We've adopted housing plans that ensure safe, attainable, and affordable housing for everyone. As a matter of fact, your city council recently passed a land development code that adds more options for building, that curbs sprawl and the emissions and the environmental impacts that come with it, creates more choice for housing in our community, and will start to address some of the affordability issues. We also have some economic development strategies that are focused on underserved and underrepresented parts of our community. We created the Multicultural Business and Entrepreneurship Center that is helping individuals and families create generational wealth through business ownership and entrepreneurship. And also our broader picture economic development strategy is to create Northern Colorado and Fort Collins more specifically as a global hub for research, design, development, manufacturing, and implementation of climate solutions. So I believe we can be a major part of the global solution and create economic opportunity and social cohesion through some of this work if we approach it the right way. Again, people, planet, prosperity. So this is what I get to do every day. You can tell I'm really stoked about this. This is super fun work. You may be asking, like, how do you get involved? So for students, little bit of advice. I mean, take it with a grain of salt. I'd encourage you to think outside of your major. I know for any of you guys, like, paying for school is painful. I'm still paying off student loans. The thought of more credit hours can be daunting. But if you're in finance, take an ecology course. If you're in social work, maybe take an accounting class. If you're in the hard sciences, maybe lean into something more in the social sciences. Because depth is great. We need subject matter experts, but we also need breadth and broad perspective to address some of these really complicated issues. I'd also encourage people, students, get involved. There's so many organizations, clubs to be involved with, social justice, climate justice. It all exists on campus. And I challenge you to get beyond the campus bubble and do some of that work and engage in the community. For our community members, this also exists. There's so many ways to plug in. And maybe most importantly, what I'd ask you to do is let your voice be heard and your opinions known to your elected officials. I remember a couple weeks ago, there was hundreds of students who showed up to a city council meeting to talk about housing policy. And I can tell you that was an impactful conversation. Keep doing that. You may also have a ballot sitting on your desk or your counter at home. Like the election is November 7th. You got to get your ballots in, quick reminder. But what's on this ballot? You get to vote on climate, parks, housing, transit. All of that stuff is on the ballot right now. So please, if you only take one thing away from this talk, vote. Now, going back to how do we create enduring, sustainable, thriving places, we do that by working together, by creating community. And Fort Collins, while I think we're on the leading edge of some of these conversations, we're not unique in the world. We are doing this with a network of other cities, both in the US and around the world, and I feel very confident that we're spending a lot of our time and resources in the right space. So I know by working together, we can create a healthy planet with thriving people and a robust economy. Thank you guys for listening to me this morning. I've had a great time.